Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to another video. I'm going to spend a good portion of the start of this, like, all tabbed out, reading from notes I wrote down to teach you stuff here, Matt. But this is another PvP for Dummies video with...
Matt Visual.
Okay, hello, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. You know?
ready to learn stuff?
I'm ready. I'm ready just like I was in high school.
Are you in your desk? Have you got your pens and pencils?
Yes, yes, and my sharpener and my notebook. Nice and clean. Yep, I'm ready to go.
Has your notebook got all of the information I've already taught you in it?
Because
it's pop quiz time.
Of course, of course. I've always passed the pop quizzes back in high school. I got straight A's, dude.
In my country, we don't have pop quizzes, really. Well, I probably shouldn't say that. I never had a pop quiz my entire way through academia. I'll say that much. Okay, so today, guys, we're going to be looking at roaming, okay? This is not going to be the most advanced everything possible you could ever know about roaming. Naturally, this is a complicated game. There's a lot to know. But I can give you some basic tips and rules to Matt and to everyone watching that will basically ensure you're not a total scrub. There's some really simple stuff that people do wrong all the time that you can just iron out and get rid of very quickly. That will mean you're a massive asset to your team. Okay, the idea of roaming, right? Is this game is not deathmatch. I've said it pretty much every video, I think. It's not, do you just kill the other people when you're in a big fight, okay?
No, people do that all the time. You know, like, all the time. All they want to do is kill each other. Dude, it's just so aggravating. Like, you're not going to win this way.
I'll have something to say on that point as well, because like a lot of people also think that fighting on roads in this game is just terrible, and people just think it's deathmatch, when that can actually be quite useful. But basically, you know, this game type is played over large maps with lots of different objectives, and always at least 3 capture points. Making sure you're in the right position is incredibly important. Half the game is fighting and winning the fights and knowing what to do in the fights. The other half of the game is making sure you're just in the right place, okay, and you're not wasting time, which people do all the time, and I hate time wasters. Okay, so I would be great at the head of a large corporation. I can tell it already. So
the evil potato.
Before we start, do you have any kind of concept of where you would be going and what you'd be doing in a match? Let's get your say on what you understand about it. All right, before we go.
So as I haven't played my Necro in a while, so you were telling me a few things when we were playing the matches just a while ago. Is that I'm supposed to be, since I'm not like tanky-ish, I'm more supposed to be like on the edge of the nodes, really like raining down fire upon everyone who's there and fearing them off, and try to just give them CC and do a lot of conditions to them, so to kind of put pressure on them to push off while the Guardian kind of like, you know, does his thing and protects the node. Right?
Yeah, so, I mean, for that in particular, that's very true, and that is definitely what a lot of Necro specs should be doing. There are exceptions to that. If you're a power Necro and Dagger, it's quite hard to be off on the side so much. But, you know, that comes down to team fighting and how you actually win the fights. What about getting from, you know, this happens every single match, regardless of whether you win a fight or you lose a fight, the fight ends, and you ask yourself one question. You ask yourself, where do I go next, right? And you have to know where to go, right? That is roaming, okay? And I'm going to be talking about being on a conventional roamer. There are lots of different ways you can do this and lots of different things you consider depending on maps. But if you are, for example, just solo queuing on a conventional roamer, this is my mentality. This is rule number 1. Your job is to win the team fights, okay? That's what you're there for. You're going to be looking at the map and seeing where fights are occurring, and it's your job to get to that area. Your job is to win the team fights. If you just remember that mentality in general, and that drives where you go, then that's going to help you a lot, because that's going to mean you don't stupidly push to a node where nothing is going on in the name of like trying to back cap, for example, which can be useful again, but I'm going to keep second guessing myself everything I say here. But basically, if you just take the mentality that you're there to win the team fights, then you're going to win more fights, because Guild Wars 2 is a numbers game. Yes, sometimes people will be able to 2v3. Yes, sometimes there'll be horrible counter comp, and it'll be your 2 guys against 3 other people that are all just like massively strong against your particular specs. But most of the time in Guild Wars 2, because of the way the downstate works, in my opinion, among other things, generally if you outnumber the enemies, your side is going to win. And if you look at this game as a numbers game, then that helps you know where to go quite a lot of the time.
A couple of things though. All right, so you have 5 people on the team, right? Most likely one of them is a bunker, and it's usually in the middle, right?
Yeah, I would put a hard bunker in the middle, yeah.
And so do you leave? So do the roamers just constantly go back to home to check it out every once in a while? Or is there a bunker there too sometimes? I guess it depends on the strategy.
Yeah, I mean, you can have like a, I suppose depending on what game you'd come from, you'd have a different term, but you can have like an off-tanky type guy. Rangers at the moment are incredibly strong for 1v1s and have a lot of protection and a lot of ability to have sustain. A lot of the time you'll find Rangers are the people that stick about on home. And yeah, in general, you either have one person solidly sat about on a node and everybody else roaming, or you have two people on nodes and everybody else roaming in general. If you have, the less people you have designated to sit on nodes, the smarter you have to be with your roaming, because the less time you're going to have to stop the enemies backcapping you all the time, right? So if you're all really smart, really high mobility classes, and everybody knows really carefully what they're doing and they never engage on fights where they're going to lose, then yeah, you can play matches with just no kind of bunker whatsoever, and that is a viable technique. But in general, what I'm going to be saying here is generally, if you've got a bunker, then that's kind of your ticket as a roamer to roam away a little bit more freely, right?
Right.
So point number one is it's your job to win the team fights, right? Point number two, I would say, is something else that you always have to bear in mind, is if you're standing on a completely uncontested node just to cap it while a teammate is doing the same, you are being a complete waste of time. Everybody does this in the game, okay? Just try and remember this. There is no point. Nodes don't cap faster because two people are stood on them at the same time. You only need one person on that node. So if you've just walked to the mid, for example, you've just walked to mid and you see your Guardian is capping a node right now. You don't have it in your favor, but there's no enemies about at all. Don't stand on it. You don't need to be there at all. Yes, enemies might attack it soon, but that doesn't mean that you should stand on the node next to the Guardian. If you do think that maybe, even though the Guardian isn't being fought right now anyway, even if you do think someone's about to be attacked, you don't stand on the node with them. You should just try and make yourself useful by actually scouting around to confirm your suspicions, or if you know 100% definitely your Guardian's about to be attacked, then try and engage on the enemies before they get to the node. That's a situation where it's actually smart to fight people on the roads, right? Because a lot of people will also say in this game, if you're just fighting people randomly out on the roads and you're not actually fighting where the conquest cap points are, you're being completely useless. That's not true at all. A lot of the times it's a very good idea to intercept people, especially if you're like on a, you know how strong thieves are, yeah, very quick, and then they can just spike someone out very quickly, yeah? Right. If you're on a class like that, a high power spike class, it's incredibly good idea to actually fight people on the nodes, because often when people are just wandering around, la-di-da-di-da, I'm just going to a node right now, they're not always 100% aware, or a lot of weak players aren't always 100% aware of everyone that could be attacking them, right? So you as a thief, if you were playing that class, it's a great idea to just jump people before they even get to the fight, because often you can give them out straight away without them even seeing it coming. Or in a more regular scenario, if everybody's sort of, you know, on the ball, then you might not kill them instantly, but you force them to pop their heal skill before they've even got to the fight. You force them, you may have slowed them down with cripples and chills and stuff, right? So it's always useful to scout around rather than just standing on the node with someone else. That always happens, and the main reason why people do it is because it's widely accepted, perfectly fine thing to do in hot joins. You'll see Zergs, you'll see like 5-6 people stood on a single node. Do you know why they do that in hot joins?
No.
It's because everybody wants glory. Everybody wants their rank points. They just want to rank up and get achievements and stuff like that. And you get 10 points for standing on the node. So everybody does it. Even though it's not any better for the team at all, everybody does it because they want their 10 points. Which is a little bit short-sighted by ArenaNet. You've got to consider that. I think if they halved the amount of glory people got, maybe, if they were all stood on it or something, I don't know. But that's the reason why people do that. And you'll actually find, if you're playing a lot of 5v5s, real conquest, and you've got to the stage where you're done with hot joins and you're playing the real matches now, you're using the solo arenas feature, you'll find that instead of standing and waiting for those 10 points, I promise you will always come at the top of the leaderboards if you just roam to the next point. Because you get a lot more points for winning fights, because you get like 15 points per kill, and there could be upwards of 3-4 kills at a point, rather than just waiting on that node for that 10 points. I promise people, if you ever feel compelled just to stand there for 10 points and not actually help the team, you are doing it wrong, and it's not even useful for you in the long term. Obviously that changes. I mean, some classes are faster than than other classes, and it's not always guaranteed. But that is something really basic that you just shouldn't do. Okay, it's a waste of time. Just if someone else is capping,
it's more. I mean, if you're playing PvP, it's more about winning the game than getting points, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. Well, it should be. I mean, this is a different discussion entirely. But you know, right now, hot joins are better than actual matches, because actual matches don't give you that much glory for wins. But they do help your rating. And if you're just generally invested in the game type and being serious about it, then definitely you're going to be wanting to roam around more. And in my experience, you do get more points, honestly, than standing about and being useless. So that's tip number 2, rule number 2. Okay, so tip number 3 that comes from me would be, if you're roaming, you've just won a fight, you've just lost a fight, and now you need to decide where to go. You ask yourself, where am I going to go next? I would always say, try to commit to fights that are winnable. Don't forget, it's your job to win the team fights. There's no point in you walking to, say home is under attack, you see that home's under attack, you go there, you're like, oh, I'll save the day, except everybody's already dead. And then what have you done? You've just suicided. And suiciding is very rarely useful as well. You find a lot, in my opinion, I very rarely, if ever, see a suicide as being actually useful, unless it's an incredibly clutch moment right at the end of the game. Going into a node just so that you hold on to it for a second or two more, where you just instantly die against their entire team, is very rarely, if ever, useful. Because they'll get 5 points just for killing you, and then you're on respawn, and then they're free to just walk around and 5v4 the rest of your team. Very rarely useful. But my point is, always try to commit to fights that are winnable. If it's already a done deal, don't go there. Yes, you want to go and help win the team fights, but if it's already a done deal, you're too late, buddy. That's it. And you should go somewhere else. Now, the main thing with roaming is, I think that's pretty people can understand that concept quite easily, but they don't actually know how to enact that, right? How do you know for sure? Let's say you've just won a fight in mid, right? And you looked at your map and you see that there's a team fight on far and there's a team fight on home. How do you know for sure which one you should go to? Do you have any ideas?
I mean, the way I think of it, you said if both nodes are being attacked, right? Mm-hmm. Which one do you go to? Do we have mid?
They're both neutral. They're both neutral. We've just won mid. Both nodes are neutral. Both have got fights on them.
I guess it all depends on if you're with a team or you're with randoms.
You're with randoms. This works no matter what you do. You're with randoms.
I would look on to see if how many people on each, maybe.
Exactly.
And how close I am to each of them as well, depending on the spawn of the map.
Yes, so basically you can always, roaming is easier now than it's ever been in Guild Wars 2 before, because they've changed the map, right? The mini-map is much more functional and much more useful than it's ever been before. There's a very basic 3-step little thing you can do every time you win a team fight to know which fight you want to go to. Now, as a roamer, you're there to win the team fights, and you should always go somewhere. Actually commit to fights that need you but are actually winnable, okay? Now, the way you decide this, in the scenario I've just set up for you, first you're going to look at home, because it's like you say, home is probably the ideal place to go. You're going to look at home and see how many of your allies are there on the map, right? And let's say you just see a guardian, okay? You see the little guardian symbol there? Then, once you've seen that, you're going to look in the top left corner of your screen and look at the Guardian's health and conditions that are on him. And from that quick scan, you can straight away tell whether the Guardian is going to be dead before you can get there. If it looks like the Guardian's on his last legs and he's just about to be stomped, for example, then you know that the fight's lost, and you may as well move to the other node instead. But if the Guardian looks like he's on full health, then you know, hey, maybe I can get there in time and help him out. So you would go for home. So by doing that, all you have to do is you look at the map, where the fights are, then you look at how many allies you've got at that node, and then you match up their profession icons to the top left-hand corner and see what their health is. And just through that really basic reasoning, you can nearly always know which fight needs you more, and just temper yourself. Make sure you don't suicide if it looks like they really need help and they're probably dead anyway before you get there. You're not always going to know with 100% accuracy, and honestly, knowing that is what comes with experience, and that there's a very high skill cap to knowing that, very high. Eventually you're going to be able to tell what enemies they're fighting just by the conditions that are on your allies. You're going to know all kinds of different things that could swing whether you win that fight or you lose that fight, based on your own team's composition and the enemy's team composition. But for about 70% of it, I'd say, even if you've only just started PvPing, just look at how many players you've got and what their health are, okay? And that can help you know all the time whether you should go to a node or not. And just with those key little tips, you can roam pretty safely knowing that you're being at least useful.
All right, so for the necros, you were telling me that I would have to kind of stay at the edge and kind of, you know, help them push them off because I'm a little bit squishy. Or in certain situations, I can get on the node and maybe put a well down if I have some wells on me, or get plague, right, to kind of keep them off until someone comes help me. Like with team battles, you're gonna have to be with someone else, maybe like one other person or two other people kind of coordinating, like, okay, I need help at home or something like that. You're saying like situational of what's gonna be. Yeah.
The funny thing with the game is, if you are just looking at your map, looking for where your allies are, that's so key. If you just know where your allies are, a lot of people get really concerned. I feel like I've said this in a video before. A lot of people get really concerned that they don't know, that they need to know the locations of all enemy positions all the time. It's not true at all. As long as you just know where your allies are, you can know generally where you need to be, right? I mean, you might also think, oh, being in voice comms means that I'm going to be really good, or that's going to give me a big advantage. A lot of people don't know how to use voice comms for PvP in this game, because really, legitimately, very little has to be said. Very little has to be said. Once you've played enough, you'll just know intuitively where to go, and as long as you've got allies that intuitively know where they want to go as well, you can get by just fine and just win game after game after game in a row without using any kind of specific.
I've seen that like once. Like I was playing a couple of solo queues, you know, just testing out this Guardian build, and I was in the middle node, and the team just knew. Like, they saw me, they jumped off the node and let me stay there and cap the node. And then they went to away and home and just kept pushing them away. Every time I was getting low, they immediately came to my helped me up, helped me kill the guy, and left me again to cap the node again, and just kept cycling over and over again. I definitely could see that, but
yeah.
Also I could see the voice comm being helpful as well. Like, oh, someone's coming to kill me. I guess like lightning fast, you know. But map awareness, I think, is definitely number one.
I think as well, when you're getting started, voice comms can be very useful if you've got someone who knows what they're talking about and can sort of guide you through the motions kind of thing, and say, here, this is where you've gone wrong and why kind of thing. I think that can be very useful, but in general, everyone kind of gets on the same wavelength after a while. And obviously, if you want to be super duper competitive, yeah, get involved voice comms and actually talk about some of the more subtle things that people might be missing. But just by virtue of the fact you have 100% vision on every member of your team at all times, what their health is looking like and what their active effects are looking like, as well as whether the node is being attacked, whether conflict is happening on the node, and what state it's in. You can know an awful lot of stuff just by getting used to the map. You get used to the map and see where people are, then roaming is a piece of cake, really. And the other stuff is just minor stuff. You know, if you've won a fight, okay, me and you have just killed a Guardian, and I go to stomp, what do I want to see you do? As soon as that Guardian dies and I go in for the stomp, what do you then do?
Run off.
Yeah, you run off. You look at your map, you see where the fights are, you look at your party window, you see how everybody's doing at that fight, whether they need help, and you make yourself useful. Another really basic thing people do that I consider roaming, but it's sort of how to roam, is just that they would come down and try and stomp the Guardian at the same time as me. And worst case scenario, I'm stomping him without stability or a way to blind him or something. So are you. We both get knocked back. We look like total noobs. Like, it's a waste of time. It's a complete waste of time. People always stop to stomp when they don't have to. You only need one person to clean up the mess after everyone's downed while you go off and you be useful, because those next 4 seconds, 5 seconds that you save, you might not think it's a lot, but it can be the difference between winning and losing a fight.
And life and death for another teammate.
Exactly.
As well.
You as a necro, if you get to the node 5 seconds earlier, that could be you fearing someone away from stomping and then using like a signet of undeath to res them, and then suddenly you've turned it around and you outnumber them. It's a numbers game. You outnumber them, you win. If you get there after they're already dead, then it doesn't matter. And yes, those tiny seconds do add up. That's pretty much everything, though. Yeah, sorry.
But I wanted to mention the way how we're talking about, like, oh, you shouldn't stump together and stuff like that. You know, this is just like for, I guess, like structured PvP, if you actually want to learn exactly how, you know, to win the matches. Now, if you just want to play for fun, go ahead and play for fun. Yeah, and hot join, like, and do whatever you want. We're not telling you exactly like this is the way you gotta do it, you know. This is just if you want to win the game and, you know, be more productive in the time that you use.
I'm not gonna lie, I am a bit being like, this is how you've got to do it, because, you know, it takes a certain kind of yes, it's fun, and, you know, you can run around in hot join for a bit, but unless you're really going for wins, for me, my enjoyment of the game is just gone. Like, if I'm literally just zerging around, just attacking people, yeah, it was fun for a while, it was, but then it bores me, and then I want to start winning, and then I want to see how I can improve, and that's when I start looking at the team queue and the solo arenas. So, you know, obviously it's a certain type of person that might be interested in getting into it, but I would say it's very exciting, especially once everything starts to click into place.
Close matches in solo queue for me a couple days ago was really fun, really fun, and it's like down to the wire, Guardian against Guardian in the middle node, and we're just like, it's just going at it over and over again, and we can't really kill each other, and sometimes we get close, and then our friends come by and like blast him and bomb him and stuff. It's good time. It's a good time, but definitely I think solo queue I enjoyed a lot more than hot join, like you were saying before in the beginning when we started. Yeah, I enjoyed way more because people actually like sometimes know what they're doing. Sometimes you get, you know, some people that they're just running around and doing whatever they want. And
that's perfectly fine as well. The other thing is you don't want to alienate people for not knowing. Everybody starts somewhere, and you don't want to be completely mean about it.
I still suck.
Yeah, you just got to be constructive about it, that's all.
Right.
But we're turning this into a VisualWood. This is not our podcast. We need to wrap this up. Okay, so that's Roaming 101. Next time, guys, we will look, as I say, there is more to roaming, namely where you should be stood. Well, that's not really roaming, but there's a lot of map-specific stuff I'd love to take everyone through. So next time, we'll be looking at map-specific things, probably only on the actual tourney maps that are relevant right now. But yeah, so you looking forward to that, Matt?
Oh, of course. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give me a like, share with your friends, leave a comment, say what's up in the comment section below, and stay visual.